Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special Mathhammer video. Grot Bomb versus Orikan Star. Who would win? This video is inspired by my ordeals in 40k battles 5 and 8. Check them out if you want. And a discussion I had with some of my honoured viewers. The keenest minds of the Dark Kin came together, and it was decided that the best way to deal with the Orikan Star was to Grot Bomb it. And this is a somewhat anally retentive video to explore this idea further. In the green corner, weighing in at 430 points, we have the Orikan Star. This unit consists of Orikan the Diviner, a Necron special character, who's basically a Cryptek that rerolls to hit, has an AP2 weapon, gives everyone in his squad reanimation protocols of 4+, and gives everyone in the squad a reroll of a failed armor save on a 1. Next we have the Overlord. He has the Nightmare Shroud, which gives him a 2+ armor save and fear, as well as being able to force morale check at one point during the game. He's got a War Scythe for strength 7 AP2 goodness, and a Phase Shifter which gives him a 4+ invulnerable save. Supporting them we have 5 Lich Guard with AP3 swords and 3+ invulnerable save shields. This unit is basically designed to sit in the middle of the table, soaking up unholy amounts of fire and chewing through anything it touches. It has an additional surprise in that if Orikan rolls under the turn number, he can turn into a strength 7, toughness 7 combat beast. Just in case you hadn't appreciated it yet, that Overlord has a rerollable 2+ save followed by a 4+, essentially feel no pain, that even strength 10 weapons won't ignore. And the Lich Guard aren't much worse off. Challenging this immovable object, we have the unstoppable force of the Grot Bomb. Weighing in at a featherweight 255 points, this unit contains a Homunculus from the vanilla Dark Eldar Codex with the Armour of Misery, which gives the wearer a 4+ save, or a 6+ invulnerable save. The wearer causes fear, and any units within 6 inches are at -2 leadership. The importance of this item is that the Necrons have to take a leadership test on leadership 8, or hit on 6s, which has the benefit of not only shifting that turn of combat slightly in the Grotesque's favour, but if the Necrons lose, then they're taking a leadership test on at least a 7, and then it's initiative 5 versus initiative 2 to catch them, with a sweeping advance, which is pretty much the only way to take care of this unit for good. Needless to say, keeping the Homunculus alive is a top priority for the Dark Eldar. He's also armed with either a scissor hand or a flesh gauntlet, because you might as well. It really makes very little difference, as we'll see. Next we have an Aberration. I'd take him with the scissor hand to get some AP2, but it's not really too important. The main thing is to keep the Homunculus safe from challenges. And then we have our 3 Grotesques, with their high strength, high volume, poisoned attacks. It's very important that the Grotesques in this unit be part of the Grotesquerie formation found in the Coven supplement for the Dark Eldar, as when combined with the Homunculus, this makes them fearless by turn 2. So what we have here is half of the Grotesquerie formation, and we assume the leader Homunculus for the formation is with the other group. An added bonus of the formation is that the Grotesques can roll on a table to get perks such as extra strength, shred, another 4+ feel no pain, etc. Almost all of these would make a considerable difference to this fight, but it would take an unbelievable amount of time for me to go through all the different scenarios. Doing this, I really pity those Eldar Farseers. Reading the skeins of fate is a real headache. Basically, the scenario I'm going to discuss assumes that the Grot Bomb have rolled up Fleet, the most useless of their perks, as I think we all like to be a bit conservative, and I'm also assuming that they've been deployed within a Raider and can therefore get into combat by turn 2, as this is how I would try to run this formation. I'm going to put the code I wrote to work all this out in the comments, and if you want to go through and test out your own scenarios, go nuts. So here we have our grim dark battlefield and our combatants. Let's assume the Dark Eldar get the charge. The Grotesques can put out a fairly reasonable amount of attacks. They get rampage because they're outnumbered. And forgive me, but I couldn't be bothered to go through all the ramifications of that, so I've just assumed that they get 2 attacks extra for the rampage. First things first, if the Necron player knows what they're up against, they'll probably try to challenge out the Homunculus. Basically, if the Dark Eldar lose this, there's no more fear, no more leadership debuffs, no more initiative 5, and if it's turn 2, even if you brought the Grotesquerie formation, the Grots are no longer fearless and on leadership 4. I should quickly introduce the numbers that we're looking at. Basically, an integer, which is this whole number here, represents the statistical likelihood of causing a wound. The decimal number, which we'll often be looking at in this video, is a bit of an odd concept. As in this game you can't have point something of a wound, you either are wounded or are not. But this is a game of dice, and dice can fall one way or the other. The number in the decimal basically represents a statistical skew, or more simply, the likelihood that the dice will fall one way rather than the other. Basically, if the decimal number is greater than 0.5, it is more likely than not that a wound will be caused. If it's below 0.5, it's more likely than not that no wound will be caused. So let's say we accept the Necron Overlord's challenge with a Homunculus. If he's got a Flesh Gauntlet, he's got about as small a chance as you'll ever get to do a wound in Warhammer, and the chance of instant death is just laughable. Scissorhand improves things by a tiny amount, but not really enough for us to care, and in return the Necron Overlord does 1 to 2 wounds back, each of which will kill the Homunculus outright, and he won't get any saves. Not even feel no pain. So that's not really a very good option in my opinion. If you reject the challenge, however, your opponent gets to choose which character has declined and goes to the back. So if you brought the Aberration, guess which one he's going to choose. Therefore, if you have both the characters, you should accept the challenge with the Aberration. As we can see, he's got a slightly improved chance of doing something to the Overlord compared to the Homunculus. But let's be honest, no one cares, because the chances of doing anything are so tiny that it's never going to happen. And in return, the Lord's still doing about 1 wound a round to the Aberration. The important thing here is that if the Overlord is in a challenge, the rest of your attacks can be allocated against the unit. And that is a big deal, because if you haven't broken them by then, you've almost certainly lost. But that's also very complicated. So, to give you a basic sense of what the 2 units do to each other, I'm going to assume no challenges. And so we go to the end of round 1. Yet another assumption is being made here, and that's with all the instant death around, the Necron player is choosing to take the wounds on the Lich Guard, rather than on the Necron Lord. If he or she does choose to take the wounds on the Overlord, you have very likely lost. And we'll go into that a little bit later, but for now let's stay positive. Necrons, our initiative, suck, so the Dark Eldar go first. The Homunculus does virtually nothing, or rather is so unlikely to do anything that I'm going to ignore him for the purposes of subsequent rounds. With all their charging buffs, the Grotesques can just about bring down a Lich, or Lich Guard. In return, the remaining Lich Guard will likely do 1 wound, the Overlord himself will do another wound, and Orikan is unlikely to do a wound. And my prediction for this round is that the Dark Eldar would lose by 1, but don't care because they're fearless. If anyone's interested, the best case scenario for the Grotesques is if the Necrons fail their fear test on the turn that the Dark Eldar charge. Hitting on 3s now, all those Grotesques are still only likely to kill 1 Lich Guard, and pray that the Necron player doesn't put it on the Overlord. However, hitting on 6s, the Necrons are now no longer likely to do any wounds back in return. And so, the likely result is that the Dark Eldar will win by 1, the Necrons take a leadership test on leadership 7, and they have a 41% chance to fail that. If the Necrons fail, the players make a contested initiative roll, and basically if the Dark Eldar roll a 3 up, there's nothing the Necrons can do, and the squad will be swept and destroyed. But we can't really bank on such happy circumstance, so let's check out the results at the end of round 2 of combat, which we're going to assume is Necron gain turn 2, so is there a chance Orikan might have done his empowerment roll if he'd rolled a 1 this turn. Let's pretend he hasn't. Without the bonus attacks from charging, the Grotesques have lost some of their bite, but they're still getting Rampage, so again assuming the Rampage roll of 2, they're more likely than not to do a wound, although it's much less certain, to the Lich Guard. In return, the Necrons will probably do 2 wounds back to the Grotesques, and so the Dark Eldar lose by about 1 or 2, which they don't care about. If their Homunculus is still alive, they're fearless. And I'm going to say it again, because I can't stress this enough. If the wounds are being allocated to the Overlord, he has a 2+ rerollable save, followed by a 4+ reanimation. The Grotesques are not going to be killing anything, and so this is all a bit academic. Okay, let's go to the end of round 3. So assuming the Grotesques did kill something last turn, they've now lost Rampage, and are, I think, they're generating about 17 attacks per round, which means you've got a slightly better than 50% chance of killing something this turn, if wounds are being allocated to the Lich Guard. With the wounds you've taken up to this point, you could have dropped a Grotesque and attempted to regain Rampage. So again, assuming 2 attacks extra for Rampage, you're looking at a 0.7 of a dead Lich Guard, which isn't that impressive, I think you'll agree. Regardless of whether or not you kill another of their number, the Lich Guard are likely to do a wound back, and the Overlord will do another wound. If the Aberration was in a challenge with the Overlord, he's likely to be dead this round, and the Lich Guard will be even more likely to do a wound because there'll be more of them left alive. If our combatants manage to slog their way into round 4, and again assuming the Grotesques bring down another Lich Guard, which is probably pushing your luck by this point, they finally ground down the Necrons to the point where they're only taking one wound a turn on average, but more importantly, numbers are probably thin enough now that they can start to attack the characters of the Necrons. Though bear in mind the Necron player can still look out sir these attacks on a 2-up. Let's do this! Show me what you got, Mr. Necron Overlord. Oh bugger. Basically, bring all the Grotesques you want. It's going to take a very bad turn of dice to get through that Necron's armour. Meanwhile, he's sitting back and laughing as he strips off a wound a turn. And this is why you hope the threat of instant death stops the Necron player from doing this earlier. And it looked like things were going so well. Thanks, GW. Okay, moving on from that downer, let's go for Orikan. Even pretending your opponent forgets his lookout sir, things don't really look like they're going anywhere in a hurry. Even in the extremely unlikely event that you get to allocate all your attacks on Orikan, you're still only likely to do 1 wound a turn with your 17 Grotesque attacks. And let's be honest, that's never going to happen. Basically, if you don't break and destroy this unit, and you do happen to get lucky enough to whittle away all the Lich Guard, you're never going to finish off these characters. Which is fine. At about 2/3 the point cost of the Necron unit, the Grotesques can hold them up quite nicely, whilst you go about the business of winning the game with your other units. But let's not forget Orikan's nasty trick. At the beginning of any turn, if he rolls less than the turn number on a d6, he transforms, gaining Weapon Skill 5, Strength 7, Toughness 7, Initiative 4, Wounds 4, and Attacks 4. And yes, he still rerolls all of his missed attacks. The Grotesque's chances of hurting him go down a little bit because they're no longer rerolling to wound, as they were against his Toughness 4 incarnation, but now he's contributing 2 more wounds, essentially, a round of combat, to the Necron's side, making it much less likely that you're going to be able to break the unit, and his Initiative 4 is more likely to cheat you of an overrun in the event that the stars align and you actually do manage to break the unit. If he gets lucky, he can do this from turn 2, and the likelihood of him doing it increases, obviously, every turn. If at all possible, Orikan needs to die as early as possible. Mostly as he's the source of the rerolls for all the other Necron's armor saves. But short of sniping him with a hex rifle, I just can't see a way of wiggling him out into the open. So basically, this thing's coming, and you just have to suck it up when it does. Now we've probably gone on for more than enough time, but just quickly, what would happen if the Necrons got the charge? Which is not unlikely if you decided to webway portal in your Grots. Basically, the Dark Eldar are probably quite likely to do a kill, and depending on whether they do or not, the Necrons are likely to do between 3 or 5 wounds back. And from there we go into how things were in round 2 of the previous scenario, with the exception that the Grots will start to drop faster, and you basically won't be able to hold the unit as long. So that's it for the Mathhammer, and I hope it's been useful or interesting to you. As I said, there's so many different war gear or upgrade options or different troops you could throw into the mix here. You could spend your life trying to account for all the little variables. So this was only intended to give a basic sense of what could happen in a fairly generic situation. But as we all know, theory's all well and good until it meets the cold, hard chaos of the individual event in the real world. So let's put it to the test. Place your bets now! For myself, I'm betting that Orikan will turn Super Saiyan on Necron turn 3, which will be round 6 of this combat, and that will also be the turn that the Dark Eldar are wiped out. Additionally, I predict that the Dark Eldar won't do a single wound to this squad. Let's see, shall we? And here we have the combatants. I don't have any of the models actually needed to do this fight, so just use your imaginations. On the left, we have the Necrons. The Marines are the Lich Guard. The Warlock is Orikan, the Unempowered. And the Morgan Ra is the Necron Overlord. Over here, the empty bases are the Grotesques. Crutox is the Aberration, and the Creature Shaper is the Homunculus. It's Dark Eldar turn 2, and the Dark Eldar get the charge, going into round 1 of combat. Because I know the math behind this, I think the best chance I have is to challenge with the Aberration, and the Necron Lord accepts. Necrons take a fear check, and pass. Grotesques rampage for 3. The Homunculus attacks first, hitting on 3s. Ooh. Wounding on 4s, 6s rend. 1 save of 3+, passed by the Lich Guard. The Grotesques attack, and they need to make this count, hitting on 4s. Ooh. Wounding on 4s, 6s, instant death. Pretty good. So, taking the instant deaths first on the Lich Guard. Pass. Pass. Normal attacks also going on the Lich Guard. 1 fail, re-rolling 1s, he's fine. The Aberration attacks the Overlord, hitting on 4s. Wounding on 4s, rending on 6s, 1/6. So save of 4+ for the rending, he's made it. Save of 2+, he's made it. Orikan attacks, hitting on 4s, re-rolling. Wounding on 5 or 6, nothing. The Lich Guard, hitting on 4s. Wounding on 4s. 4 wounds, uh-oh. Saving on a 5 or 6. No saves. That was bad. The Overlord strikes. Hitting on 3s. Wow. Winning on 2s. Saving on a 5 or a 6. 1 save. That was a bad round for the Dark Eldar. So at the end of round 1, the Dark Eldar lose by 5. But they're fearless, so they stick around as we move into Necron turn 2. Round of combat. Turn 2. The Necrons take a leadership check and pass. Orikan, does he empower? He doesn't. and do the Grotesque Rampage. They get a 1. Uh-oh. The Homunculus hitting on 3s. Pretty good. Wounding on 4s, 6s rend. Very good. So the 2 rendings going on the Lich Guard. 2 saves. Normal attacks, 2 saves. The Grotesque's attack, hitting on 4s. Very good. Wounding on 4s, 6 instant death. Woohoo! Oh, wow. So, choosing the instant death on the Lich Guard. 1 fails. Reanimation protocol. Failed. 1 is dead. Very dead. And the normal attack is saved. The Aberration hitting on 4s. Wounding on 4s. 6 is rend. There's a rending. The rending attack. Wound saves on a 4. Saved. Normal. Saved. Orikan attacks. Hitting on 4s, re-rolling misses. 1 hits. Wounding on 5 or 6, nothing. The Lich Guard. Hit on 4s. Not great. Wounding, okay, that's average, but wounding on 4s. 2 saves of 5+. 1 save. Overlord hits on a 3, wounds on a 2. 2 saves of 5 or 6. 1 save. But the Aberration is down nonetheless. So at the end of combat round 2, it's not looking good for the Dark Eldar. They lose by 1, but stick around because they're fearless. But now the Necron Overlord is free to soak up some damage. Moving into Dark Eldar. Turn 3, which is also round 3 of the combat. The Grotesques get it will not die this turn, but let's see if the Necrons pass their leadership check. Wow, they really do. Rampaging Grotesques for 2. The Overlord challenges the Homunculus, who declines and goes to the back. Grotesque attack, hitting on 4s. Pretty good. And the Necron player can choose who to allocate the wounds to, because it's done as per shooting, and the models are equidistant. But he's going to put all of the attacks on the Necron Lord. We have an instant death. Not really that much else. Instant death. Passed. Normal attacks. Orikan hits on 4s. Rerolling misses. Wounds on 4, 5 or 6. Nothing. Lich Guard. Hit on 4s. Wound on 4s. Nothing. The Overlord hits on 3s. 1 hit. Wounds on 2s. No wounds. So, turn 3 was a bit of a pillar fight, and we draw combat. The Grotesque will not die. And none of them make it. Going into Necron, turn 3, which is round 4 of the combat. Does Orikan empower? He doesn't. Do the Necrons pass their fear check? They do. Rampage for the Grotesques. 3. And we're just going to assume that the Overlord is challenging the Homunculus and that he is declining each round. The Grotesque attack, hitting on 4s. Taking them all on the Necron Overlord. 6s are instant death. 2 6s. Wow, my rolling is not good. Instant death, save on 2 up. It's a 1! Oh, but he makes it. Next instant death, makes it. Normal wall attacks, makes it. He is unkillable. Orikan. 1 hit. No wounds. Lich Guard. Hit on 4s. Wound on 4s. 2 wounds taken. We have dropped a Grotesque. The Overlord. 1 hit. 1 wound. 1 more Grotesque falls. So at the end of that combat, the Dark Eldar lose by 2 or 3, I can't remember. And the Grotesque gets and it will not die. Which passes and goes up to 2 wounds. Moving into turn 5, which is Dark Eldar turn 4. So they get Zealot this turn. Necron Fear check. They pass. Grot Rampage for 1. Grotesque hitting on 4s, re-rolling misses. Good job too. Wounding on 4s, 6 instant death. On the Necron Overlord. He's failed! He's failed! But he's passed. Whoa! And the normal attacks. Oh look, he's fast. Orikan. Rerolling. Lich Guard. This could be all over. Wounding on 4s. 2 wounds. Saving on 5 or 6. The Grotesque is there with 1 wound remaining. The Overlord hits. 2 wounds. On the Grotesque. Fails. And the Homunculus is down. So in the end, the Dark Eldar went 5 rounds and took 1 Lich Guard down. Oh man, that was so close when that Overlord rolled 2 1s in a row. But yeah, there's just no getting through that save. And there you have it. The Grot Bomb wiped out in the 5th round of combat after having taken down 1 Lich Guard. Be honest, I wasn't too far off. The Necrons not failing a fear check was a big deal. On Leadership 8 it's nowhere near impossible, and they probably should have failed 1 during one of the rounds of combat at least. If they failed it in the first round when the Grotesques charged, I'd probably bet on the Grotesques sweeping the unit. But I am a little biased. Failing the fear test in any other round means that there's a good chance that the Grotesques won't take any wounds, and that's another round you're stalling this unit for. Once the Overlord gets out of his challenge, it's all south from there. It's a pity we didn't get to see Orikan do his thing. As you can see, the unit doesn't really need him. Basically, if you see this unit coming at you, don't waste dice on it. If you really have to take it on, send in half a Grotesquerie as late in the game as you can and try to stall it up. And who knows, you could get lucky with a fear test and win big. So I hope that was interesting for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.